Well, good morning, Factory. Good morning, Warehouse and Fire Hall and Churchill, and for anyone who's watching online. My name is Carolyn, and I'm the pastor of care and marriage and family here at Riverwood. Well, the year of 2007, going into 2008, I call that my year of complaint. You see, in October of 2007, Todd and I made the decision to leave our home in the Sun Valley area and move to a place just outside the city. Now, 2 years prior, had been really happy and content in this house on Sun Valley. We had completed our basement, and now there was a lovely bedroom down there for Amy. We had a guest room, and we never had a guest room before, a large second bathroom, a family room with a fireplace, and that fireplace was made of fieldstone. And the fieldstone was from my parents' property in Ashern, and I just love sentimental stuff like that. The yard, it was small, but we had this deck, and on the deck was this unique barbecue bar that Todd had designed. And you know what? I never really thought twice about the yard being too small because we lived next door to two playgrounds. And our girls, when they were growing up, they spent hours at those playgrounds with their friends. And Carly, who was in grade 2 at the time, she was still enjoying playing there. So frankly, I had no desire to move, but someone else did. His name is Todd. And Todd had this dream. He had a dream to own some property. You know, he would often say to me, "Carolyn, I just want some dirt." And I'm like, "Todd, I grew up on a farm. There's nothing exciting about dirt." I didn't get his reasoning, but there was one thing that I did get. You see, Todd had this little side business to help fund some family vacations that we wanted to take. He would fix up old tent trailers and old boats and flip them, like not literally, but flip them to earn some money to pay for these vacations. Well, the problem was that the small driveway and the single-car garage really wasn't conducive to fix up these recreational units. And one day, after he had refurbished this one particular tent trailer, he came in the house and he said, "Hey, Carolyn, can we seriously consider moving? It would be so good for us." I thought, well, what does it hurt to just take a look? So we went for a drive and found this home on Henderson Highway. We made an appointment to go view the home. The house was smaller and needed work. The garage was bigger. The property was like 10 times larger, and he had enough dirt to play in. Well, right away, I could just see him feeling just so excited about this place, and he said, "Hey, let's put in an offer." I was hesitant. But you know, Todd has this convincing way about him, the way he casts vision, and he had all this plan of what this old bungalow could become. And I bought into it. Hook, line, and sinker. I signed the dotted line. The deal was done. Well, 2 months later, we moved into that home. We got possession at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, and by 10 a.m., the wall between the kitchen and the living room was down. Now, I'm smiling in this photo, but let me tell you, that smile did not last. In fact, if there were some candid photos taken of me during those months, you would have seen more frown than smile. These lines that I have on my forehead, I swear they were from that season of my life. And if there had been a video camera rolling during that time, you would have heard a lot of complaining, a lot of negativity. Todd would wake up in the morning and he would say, "We're living in paradise." I'd wake up in the morning and I would begin my rant of complaint. "Todd, I don't like that we have sheets for doors on our bedroom. Todd, I hate that we have such a small kitchen. Todd, I despise the mice that are living in our mudroom. I'm irritated by the water out here in the water system. It's turning all of our white clothes orange. Todd, I hate that Amy is so frustrated and living down in that dungy basement. And when she gets tired of being down there, she moves upstairs with Brittany, sleeps there for 3 weeks. Brittany kicks her out. She moves into Carly's room. Carly takes her for a little while. Then Carly kicks her out. Todd, she's displaced. And on top of it, I don't like all the driving that I have to do now that we're out here, driving the kids to school and driving them here and there, and the distance, it's killing me. And I was so wound up. I'm embarrassed to tell you that I got 5 speeding tickets like in 3 months. Now, 2 of them, they weren't really my fault. Really. But I don't have time right now to go into the reasoning, but if you want to ask me later, I will tell you. So that spirit of complaint had really taken root in me. It was awful. And then I went to Swaziland. And in that country, with those people, I saw the bondage of complaint that I was in. I complained about my small kitchen. They had just a pot over a fire cooking outside. I griped about my clothes turning orange. They were just happy to have one outfit to wear. I grumbled about the water. These dear people had no water, and then they would have to walk miles to even get any. I complained about Amy's lack of a bedroom. These children didn't even have a bed. All they had was a mat to sleep on a dirt floor. I'd been whining about all the driving I had to do. The little 7-year-old girl that would become my sponsored child, she had to walk 45 minutes to get to the care point just to get a meal. And then she didn't even get a chance to go to school. Her mother could not afford the school fees. My reality was their dream. But who do you think was more content? Them or me? Well, they won hands down every single time. And as I've been reading Exodus, each time I see the phrase, "So once more the people complained," my mind goes to my year of complaint. I can identify with those Israelites. Well, this week we have read Exodus chapter 17 to 22. And this morning I would like to highlight a few events where Moses and the Israelites experienced 2 things: the impact of a threat to their lives and their future, but also the influence of a testimony of lives that were rescued. In chapter 17, Israel's on the move after some incredible out-of-this-world God moments, like when that sea was divided for them, like when God provided miraculously that manna that was on the ground every morning. Exodus 16 says it tasted like honey wafers. And then in the evening, their appetites were satisfied with meat, with quails that God had given from heaven. God had provided, and it was all from his hand. Pastor Kirsten taught last week that in each moment of uncertainty they faced, they were confronted with this unspoken question: will I worry, or will I wonder what God is going to do? And now in chapter 17, the Israelites have moved on and they set up camp at a new location. It was called Rephidim, and Rephidim means resting place. And I kind of wonder if while they were traveling there, if they might have had a conversation that went something like this: Did you hear? We're going to stop at a place called Resting Place. I'm going to put my feet up. I'm going to sit under the shade of the palm trees. I'm going to gaze at that beautiful water, and I'll watch the kids swim. Well, any dream that they may have had, any expectation of what might have been around the corner for them would be completely dashed. Nobody would be putting their feet up. Nobody would be gazing at the water because there was no water. We're going to pick this up in Exodus chapter 17, verse 2. And it says, "So once more the people complained." They complained against Moses. "Give us water to drink," they demanded. "Quiet," Moses replied. "Why are you complaining against me? And why are you testing the Lord?" But tormented by thirst, they continued to argue with Moses. "Why did you bring us out of Egypt? Are you trying to kill us, our children, and our livestock with thirst?" And the absence of water causes the Israelites to suspect the absence of God. Verse 7 says, Moses named the place Massah, which means test, and Meribah, which means arguing, because the people of Israel argued with Moses, and they tested the Lord by saying, "Is the Lord here with us or not?" The Israelites doubted God. They questioned his love and his care for them. They suggested that he had deserted them. It's like amnesia set in, and they forgot all of the things that had just happened, all of the ways that God had provided for them just in the last month. And they became wrapped up in this bondage of complaint. You know, it's easy, so easy to fall into the bondage of complaint when we're lacking something, when we're going without certain comforts. How are you doing with Lent, by the way? I've never practiced Lent before, and this season of Lent that we are doing as a church has been really eye-opening for me. I gave up something that I really enjoy. In fact, I have it several times a week. A Starbucks chai tea latte, Tim Hortons French vanilla, the grounded London fog I love here on the weekends, my Maxwell House brand little French vanilla coffee, and I have been missing them. And what I'm kind of learning now without them is that I've used these drinks, or I've relied on them as some sort of comfort. When I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling really tired, I get excited about the thought of stopping in at Starbucks on the way to work and grabbing this chai tea latte. I can't believe I get excited about that. And then when it's cold outside and maybe I don't want to spend as much money, the Tim Hortons French vanilla is really appealing. And in the early morning hours when I have some time with God and I sit in my chair, I love sipping on this Maxwell House French vanilla. And I've realized now that I've gone this amount of time without it that it's like I rely on these things for refreshment, yes, but also some comfort and even excitement. It's really crazy. And then this week, I counted the money that I would have spent on lattes and that now is in this alms jar. And I gasped a little bit. I can't believe how much money I'm spending on those things. Thankfully, it's now in here, and it's going to be going to a really good cause and helping to meet needs for people. Now, going without lattes, going without coffee, without chocolate, without Netflix, whatever you have chosen to give up, that's one thing. But what about the times in our lives that we go without something that matters way much, way more? Like good health or a job a good friend, a marriage, a family. Then what? I think like the Israelites were tempted to shout, God, where are you? We become anxious. We become angry even. The Israelites, they sure were angry. They wanted to kill Moses. And it says that Moses cried out to God, what should I do with these people? They want to stone me. And God says, Moses, here's what you do. Chapter 17, verse 5. Go on ahead of the people. Take some elders with you. Bring your shepherd's staff, the one with which you struck the Nile. I will be there when you arrive, standing on the rock of Horeb. I want you to strike that rock with your staff, and when you do, water will flow out so that everyone will have enough to drink. At the very time that the Israelites were inclined to doubt the presence of God, we see right here that God was so very present, and he would be the one to quench their thirst. Is there a thirst in your life today because something is absent? Something is missing. And it's threatening to rob you of joy, to take away your peace and your hope. Well, Jesus says, come to me. You know, I love how the books of the Bible are connected, that really it's all one big story. And after the people of Israel experience this exodus, they start to begin festivals to remember all that God did for them. And there's a festival that's celebrated in the New Testament. It's spoken of, the Feast of Tabernacles, and Jesus is there, and this is what happens. On the last day, the climax of the festival, Jesus stood and he shouts to the crowd. And remember, here they're celebrating the food that was provided and the water that was provided. He says, anyone who's thirsty, come to me. Anyone who believes in me may come and drink. For the scriptures declare rivers of living water will flow from his heart. He's saying, just like I provided water for the Israelites, and they're celebrating this to this day, I will provide something even better for you. So come to me 100 times a day if you need to. Every moment you feel you are lacking, every moment you feel like you're lacking peace, come to me because I am the Prince of Peace. Any time that you're lacking contentment, come. Because I came to give life abundantly and with meaning. Those days when you are lacking hope, come, because I am the source of hope. And those times when you are heartbroken, come to me, because I am the God of all comfort. Now let's go back to Exodus. Moses and the Israelites, they're about to encounter another threat on their lives. And we read in Exodus chapter 17, verse 8. While the people of Israel were still at Rephidim, the warriors of Amalek attacked them. Moses commanded Joshua, choose some men to go out and fight the army of Amalek for us. Tomorrow I will stand at the top of the hill holding the staff of God in my hand. Moses knew that they needed supernatural help to fight this attack, or they would be done like dinner. So Moses, his brother Aaron, his brother-in-law Hur, they go up to the hill. And Moses takes his staff, and he adopts this posture of prayer. It was a common Israelite way to pray. He holds up his arms, and he begins to pray. You know, I love that posture. We often have this posture of, bowing our heads, closing our eyes, folding our hands. Well, this posture of prayer, lifting hands up, it reminds me of when my kids were little and they were tired and they were feeling insecure about something, and they would come and hold their hands up and say, Mommy, uppy. And here, Moses, he's tired. He's feeling insecure. He's feeling really vulnerable. The Amalekites, they're an overpowering army. There's every reason for him to be overwhelmed by this. In chapter 25 in the book of Deuteronomy, it talks about this very attack, and it says that the Amalekites attacked the Israelites when they were exhausted and when they were weak. So with his staff in his hand, he lifts his hands up in prayer, and the amazing thing happens. When his hands are lifted up in prayer, they win the battle. They have the advantage. But as soon as Moses drops his hands, the Amalekites gain the advantage. Now, this might appear like some sort of magic, but really it's this beautiful picture of prayer. I like what Pastor Bill Hybels has said about prayer. He says, on so many levels, the tide of your life's battles hinge on the location of your hands. He's saying figuratively, if your hands are lifted up in prayer, it's going to change the tide of the battle you are facing. But when your hands are at your side, it can also affect the tide of your battle. So if we know that prayer gives us the advantage, why do we lower our hands? Well, we get tired. Maybe our heart has been disappointed one too many times, and we feel like giving up. Our hopes have been dashed, and frankly, we find it difficult to raise our hands in prayer to God. But what happens when Moses gets tired? Well, it says in Exodus 17, verse 12 to 13, that Moses' arms soon became tired. He could no longer hold them up. So Aaron and Hur found a stone for him to sit on. And then they stood on each side of Moses, holding up his hands. So his hands held steady until sunset. And as a result, Joshua overwhelmed the army of Amalek in battle. What a beautiful image. These two guys crawling under Moses' arms and saying, we know you're running out of steam, but we want you to see that you're not in this alone. We will stay here as long as you do. We will hold your arms up. Let's keep praying. Are these images of hands lifted up operational in your life these days? Are your arms at your side? Are you tired? And you just long to have an Aaron or a Hur in your life, people who will crawl under your tired arms and lift you up. I would encourage you to seek some people out, people that you can count on to pray for you. Others of you, you might be in a better place right now, but you know someone who isn't, and they are carrying a really heavy burden. Maybe they sit right next to you at church every week. Maybe they're in your small group. Maybe they're in your workplace. Maybe they're in your home. I would encourage you to reach out to them this week and to say, I'm going to hold your arms up this week. I'm going to pray for the tide of your marriage battle to change. I'm going to pray for the tide of your work battle to change. I'm going to pray for the battle you're fighting in at school to change. I'm going to pray for the parenting battle to change. I'm going to pray for the tide of your health battle to change. You know, we believe so strongly in prayer and gathering around people. We believe in the importance that the elders have in our church to pray over people. James chapter 5 actually gives us a command that when we are sick, we should come to the elders, be anointed with oil, and pray, be prayed over. Now, I don't have time to go into what all that means, but I want to let you know that the elders will be available here every second Sunday of the month. And if you're at the fire hall or if you're at the warehouse, you can stop here every second Sunday between 10:40 and 11:10. And they're going to be up here and available to pray for healing for people who are sick. I would encourage you to take them up on that. What's the lesson for us here in chapter 17? For those times that we encounter a threat, I believe it's this. When there is an absence of something in your life, seek the presence of God. Can you say that with me? When there is an absence in your life, seek the presence of God. With God's help, the Israelites, they overcame the threat of thirst and the threat of defeat and being wiped out. It was amazing because they sought God. And now the story takes a bit of a turn. A testimony is going to be given, a life is going to be changed, and the Israelites, they're going to be reminded that their lives, their nation, will actually be a testimony to the whole world. In chapter 18, Moses' father-in-law Jethro shows up, and it looks like these two men have a really special relationship, one of respect and admiration, one of affection. And Moses tells Jethro all that's happened in the last couple months since he led the Israelites out of Egypt. Let's look at chapter 18, verse 9 to 11. Jethro was delighted when he heard about all the good things the Lord had done for Israel as he rescued them from the hand of the Egyptians. "Praise the Lord," Jethro said, "for he has rescued you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh. Yes, he has rescued Israel from the powerful hand of Egypt. I know now that the Lord is greater than all other gods because he rescued his people from the oppression of the proud Egyptians." It would seem that Jethro is a polytheist. He had bought into the culture of the day, believing that there were many gods. But on this day, he was so struck by what he heard about Israel and about their God and what God had done. He says, "Oh my goodness, now I know. Now I know that the Lord is greater." And Jethro comes to know God like never before. And he offers this sacrifice to God. They have this beautiful communion meal together in the presence of God, it says. There's such power in the God story of people's lives. And I would like to give you a peek into a Riverwooders' God testimony of rescue.
Hi, my name is Tony DeBraga. I'm 53 years old. Been attending Riverwood now for, I think, about 5 years. I go to the 11:15 at the warehouse. I've been going through some bad times in my mind. A lot of bad self-talk, which I'm sure everybody does. So my decision and me and my wife's decision was that I would quit my job and I would get a job driving a truck on a highway. And the sole purpose of this was to find myself. It would just be me and that voice in my head. Trust me, that voice in my head is really not a very nice voice sometimes. It says some pretty mean things. But anyway, as I'm driving one day, it was just a particularly bad day. I was having a lot of mixed emotions and feelings in my mind. That night when I parked the truck and I crawled into the bunk, I was praying as I usually do. And it got very emotional. I actually started crying. I was bawling like a baby in the back of the truck, begging Jesus to fix me. Because I was mean. I was mean to people I cared about, and I didn't want to be that way anymore. So after I had a fairly deep discussion with him, I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning, did what I had to do. I started driving the truck, and for anybody that knows me, music is a very important part of my life. The lyrics speak to me. Anyway, a song came on that I've heard 100 times. I actually listened to the lyrics, I guess, this time. And it was a song by Rod Stewart. It's called Sailing. It's about traveling down troubled waters. And all I could think of is that's me. I'm driving this truck and I'm driving over troubled waters and I'm trying to find my way back home. I'm trying to get to Jesus. And at that moment, I had a feeling. It was like I was being pulled down by the devil. I know I was. And I felt Jesus' arms come, grab me, and say, no, you don't get this one. This one's mine. And I think by what happened that day on that highway, and I could take you to the exact spot on the highway, it was just that moving. It felt like a burden. It's like, that's not yours anymore. Give it up. And that's what it felt like. It's like, don't hang on to that. You need to feel the freedom. And at that moment, I believe I was set free. It was a freedom it was deeper than my body. It was a soul freedom. It felt like my soul could soar. It was a freedom I can't express. The Red Sea was parted for me. It was held back. The mighty hands of Jesus held him back, and I walked through. And there's no getting back from that. I wish everybody could experience it. It's just awesome. It's an awesome feeling that whenever I feel this anger boiling up again, I remember the sea is open for you. Just walk through it. That's all you got to do. Ask him, and he will open that sea for you.
Thank you, Tony, over at the warehouse. Thank you so much for sharing your freedom story with us. You know, I loved how Tony's testimony just fits so well into what we're talking about today, this battle that Tony was facing as he lifted up his arms to God. It was God who changed the battle, that changed the direction for him. Amazing. I love the picture he uses of soaring. He was beginning to soar again. And it's really cool because the Israelites are given that same picture here in Exodus chapter 19, verse 4-6. It says, "You have seen what I did to the Egyptians. You know how I carried you on eagle's wings." God is saying, you were eyewitnesses of all that I did to the Egyptians. You saw how I rescued you from the bondage you were in, how I carried you on eagle's wings, and I brought you to myself. I love that imagery, being carried on eagle's wings. To me, it shouts tenderness and it shouts affection. God is saying, I swooped in with strength and I snatched you out of that old, defeated, enslaved life, and I brought you to myself. The people of Israel were not only liberated, they were loved. And God is about to offer something new and something incredible to them. Let's look at verse 5. Now, if you will obey me and keep my covenant, you will be my own special treasure from among all the peoples on earth, for all the earth belongs to me. And you will be my kingdom of priests, my holy nation. This is the message you must give to the people of Israel. God is offering them this amazing invitation. If you follow me fully, this is who you will be. This is the new life I'm offering. This is the new identity that you are going to have. And this is going to be your testimony, that you are a special treasure. You will be a kingdom of priests. And this wasn't about a position. This was about a new purpose for them. You are a holy nation. You are set apart. Now, it wasn't as if God was ignoring the rest of the world. It was that this was his divine plan, to use the nation of Israel, to use their testimony to show all the other nations that he was the one true God. And here is something absolutely amazing. These words weren't just spoken to the Israelites. Almost the exact same words are spoken to Jesus' followers and to us today. In 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9, it says this: "You are a chosen people. You are royal priests, a holy nation, God's very own possession. And as a result, you can show others the goodness of God, for he called you out of darkness and into his wonderful light." He's saying, look, like the Israelites, I chose you. And when you choose me back, when you say yes to me, when you decide to follow me, something new and something amazing happens. You are in my custody. You're in my care and protection. You have complete and direct access to me. You have a new purpose. And in me, you find strength. In me, you find peace. In me, you find joy. In me, you find hope. And in me, you find freedom. You're set apart for something different. And as a result, you have this incredible testimony to share, to show others the goodness of God and how He rescued you out of darkness and brought you into the light. So what is the lesson here from chapter 18 and 19? I believe it's this: recall what God has done for you. Recall what God has done for you, and remember who you are. Remember who you are. The testimony that comes out of that is powerful. And in the chapters that follow, God reveals the law, this moral code for His people, the famous 10 Commandments. They weren't just there for some rules and some regulations. They were this set of protective measures put in place so that we can experience the freedom and the blessing of a healthy relationship with God and a healthy relationship with other people. So we could experience God fully, that our threats would be minimal, but our testimony would be great. Well, it's been 9 years and a bit since we moved into our renovation project, and the work is almost complete. But I have to tell you, a much greater renewal project took place. It took place right here. The turning of my attitude of complaint into one of contentment. And when life gets hard and frustrations and fears raise their ugly heads, I go back to the invaluable life lessons gifted to me by my Swazi friends and to the book of Exodus, where we've learned today that when there is an absence of something in our lives, we need to seek the presence of Jesus. So this week, if you are feeling something is missing, something is lacking, there's a big missing piece, I would encourage you to, each moment you're feeling that, to lift your arms in prayer. And for those of you who are tired, seek someone out to help carry your tired arms. And let's all of us be so aware of the people around us. And when you go home today, I want you to think about, who is it that I should text or call or send a note to and say, I am going to lift your arms up in prayer so that the tide of your battle changes. And let's recall this week all that God has done here in Exodus, but also all that God has done for us. And let's remember who we are. Will you join me on that continual renewal journey that we're going to be on until we die? Let's pray. God, I thank you for your rescue. I thank you that because of all that you've done, I thank you that we can be your chosen people. We can have a new purpose. When we feel like we're lacking, we have a place to go to experience supernatural peace and joy and strength and hope. Help us to keep drawing into you and keep looking to you for those things. And help us to be so aware of others around us who need their arms lifted up. May this week be a week where we are, as Riverwooders, seeking you more fully and coming alongside other people, and where we are remembering all that you've done and who we are. In Jesus' name, amen. At this time, I would like to turn our other sites over to the service hosts there.